Hello, Cool family, like and subscribe to the channel to know everything about Barcelona. In this video, we have 3 very important pieces of news about our beloved club. Let's move on to the first one. Ansu Fati is very close to saying goodbye to the club that saw him grow, that trained him from childhood, and that propelled him among the elite of world football. At just 16 years old, his name, not so long ago, was spoken with enthusiasm in every corner of Barcelona's fanbase. He was talked about as the natural heir to Messi, as the brightest jewel of La Masia in recent times, as the face of the future Cule. However, reality has been harsher than any supporter would have wanted to accept. Today, his departure is not only probable, it is desired by many within the club and necessary for the player himself. The latest information published by To-Do Fishages indicates that Sevilla has emerged as the main contender to secure the services of the forward. The Andalusian club has quickly made its move, aware that this is a unique opportunity to strengthen its squad with a young footballer who has experience in big scenarios and, above all, with immense motivation to reaffirm himself at Nervión. They believe they can be the springboard. Ansu needs to feel like a footballer again. From Barcelona, the message is clear. Hansi Flick does not count on Ansu Fati. The new German coach has evaluated the player, observed him, reviewed his last phase, and concluded that he does not fit into his immediate plans. The club, for its part, has decided to support the coach in his planning, and this implies making tough decisions. Ansu's departure is one of them, but it should not be understood as a punishment or a betrayal, but as an act of sporting and emotional coherence. Because in elite football, talent is not enough. Regularity, physicality, attitude, tactical intelligence, and, above all, availability are also needed. Ansu has gone through a calvary of injuries since that fateful meniscus rupture that marked a before and after in his career. Since then, neither his body nor his football have been the same. The club has been patient, generous, and even bold in giving him the number 10 after Messi's departure, but promises do not hold up over time if they are not translated into performance on the field. Sevilla, for its part, offers everything Ansu needs at this stage of his career: a competitive but less media-demanding environment than Camp Nou, a team in reconstruction that needs an offensive leader, and supporters who know how to support their own when they see commitment. Additionally, the Hispala Sports Management has experience in managing this type of transfers. Players who, for various reasons, have stagnated in other clubs and find in Nervión the perfect place to rediscover themselves. Whether through a loan with an option to buy or a permanent transfer, the move seems imminent, and from a Cule perspective, there is no reason to oppose it. On the contrary, it is a step forward for everyone. The Catalan club can free up salary space, something fundamental in its current economic situation. It can also open up space for young talents who are pushing hard like LAMINE YAMAL, Fermín López, or even Victor Roque, and above all, it can stop living anchored to a hope that increasingly resembles a mirage. Ansu needs to play, to have minutes, confidence, mistakes, successes, rhythm, continuity. He needs to feel important, to look at the bench and know he will be the first to come on, not the last. He needs to be a protagonist, and today he cannot find that at Barcelona. His loan to Brighton was a brave but unfruitful attempt. Injuries, adaptation to English football, and constant rotation condemned him to ostracism. Today, his entourage believes that La Liga is the most suitable environment to regain sensations, and Sevilla represents this golden opportunity. Other clubs have shown interest, such as Real Sociedad or Girona, but more passively. Real Sociedad, always meticulous in its planning, is focused on other priorities. Girona, on the other hand, watches from afar but does not seem willing to enter a direct bidding war. Sevilla, however, has already gotten to work, wants Ansu, needs him, and has made it known to him, and this is a very powerful signal for any footballer looking to believe in himself. It is time to take stock. What has Ansu Fati been for Barcelona? He has been a symbol of hope in difficult times. He has been the child who made us forget for a moment Messi's departure. He has been the young player from the academy who awakened passions, filled the headlines, broken precocity records, and made us believe in miracles. But he has also been, unintentionally, a mirror of what happens when expectations exceed reality. Pressure, injuries, comparisons, the weight of the number 10, all of this has dragged him down too soon. That is why letting him go should not hurt. On the contrary, it should relieve, for him, for the club, for the supporters. This separation can be temporary or definitive, time will tell, but what is clear is that it is currently the best thing that can happen, because Ansu Fati still has a lot of football to offer, but he needs to do it in a place where he does not carry invisible burdens, a place where mistakes are not a condemnation and where the memory of what he was does not weigh more than his present. And here, dear Cules, is where reflection becomes necessary. What do you think? Is this the right decision, or do you think the club should give him one last chance? The opinion of the supporters is always diverse, and it is normal that some feel sadness or nostalgia in the face of this possible departure, but we must look to the future with realism. Barcelona is in a process of renewal with Hansi Flick at the helm. An era of tactical demand, physical intensity, and maximum competitiveness is opening, and in this roadmap, there is no room for sentimentality. Ansu Fati will always be remembered with affection. Whatever happens, wherever he plays, he will carry the blue and garnet colors in his heart, but his story here, at least for now, needs a pause that allows him to rewrite his own narrative with less pressure and more freedom, a pause that allows Barcelona to continue growing without emotional ties that harm its evolution as a team. And if in the future their paths cross again, let it be with a renewed Ansu, mature, strong, ready to wear the shirt with which he once dreamed again. For now, we wish him the best, because when a young player from the academy triumphs, even far from Camp Nou, it is also a victory for Barcelona supporters. So, Cule supporters, what do you think? Is it time to say goodbye with gratitude and hope, or do you think Barcelona should have been more patient? The debate is open, and every opinion counts in this new chapter that we are about to write together. The second piece of news concerns an important decision within the club. Barcelona is going through a moment of transition in its recent history. After several years of sporting ups and downs and economic complexities, the club has entered a phase of structural and sporting reconfiguration that requires making brave decisions. Among these decisions, one that has attracted the most attention is the determination to part ways with Ferran Torres, a decision that, far from surprising a large part of the Cule supporters, has been understood as a sign of maturity, long-term planning, and, above all, common sense. Ferran's departure represents much more than a simple market operation. It symbolizes the beginning of an era where bets must be fully justified by performance, projection, and adaptation to the model that coach Hansi Flick wants to implement. And while it is true that the history of football is filled with players who needed time to adapt and eventually triumph, it is also true that not everyone finds their place. In Ferran's case, the feeling is that he never really found it. When he arrived at the club, he was surrounded by expectations. His youth, his past in English football, and his international projection seemed to be ideal ingredients for him to become an important piece of the team. However, time has diluted this initial illusion. Although he was given opportunities, important minutes, and attempts were made to reposition him in different attacking positions, his influence on the game and the team's results has been much lower than expected. Barcelona, as an institution, cannot afford to keep footballers in its squad who do not make a difference, regardless of their attitude or professionalism. The demand in a club of this stature is maximum. It is not just about being diligent or correct. Players are expected to stand out, set the trend, and drive the team forward in difficult moments. When this does not happen, despite all the affection or respect one may have for the player, it is preferable to take separate paths, because ultimately, football is also a matter of resource management, planning, and efficiency. From an economic point of view, keeping Ferran implies assuming a considerable cost, and if we consider that his performance has not been differential, his permanence becomes a burden. On the other hand, opening the exit door for him can be a strategic opportunity to free up salary mass, obtain revenue through a sale, or use his name in an operation that benefits the team in other more necessary positions. All of this makes even more sense if we consider the policy of sustainability that the club has set as a priority in recent years. It is not about despising the player or judging him harshly. On the contrary, Ferran has shown to be a serious professional, with a positive attitude and without generating internal conflicts. However, professionalism alone is not enough in an environment like Barcelona's. Here, the demand goes much further. Each player who wears the blue and garnet shirt is expected to do so with a level of excellence in line with the club's history. If this excellence is not achieved, sporting and economic logic points in one direction. It is necessary to remember that in the club's history, many footballers have passed through who, without being bad players, have not managed to leave their mark, and this does not mean they are despised. They simply were not what the team needed at that moment. The relationship between the player and the club can also be a matter of context, system, mentality. Ferran has not been the first case and will not be the last, and there is no drama in recognizing it. The important thing is to know when to end a stage and start another. At the same time, work is being done discreetly to find an outcome that benefits both parties, because although Ferran's cycle at Barcelona seems to have ended, this does not mean he cannot have success in another team, in another environment, with other responsibilities and demands. The figure of the new coach, Hansi Flick, also carries significant weight in this decision. The German coach arrived at the club with a very clear idea of what he wants to implement: dynamic football, high intensity, with quick transitions and organized pressure. In this scheme, there is no room for players who do not fully adapt to his vision. And although Ferran has tried to integrate and offer different versions of himself, the technical evaluation has not been positive. The question is clear: a team that remains stagnant in past decisions, or one that dares to renew its squad with criteria and courage? The answer for many is clear, which is why this decision should not be seen as a loss, but as an opportunity to reconfigure the team with players who truly add value, who raise the collective level, who meet the demand imposed by wearing the Barcelona shirt. An opportunity to use available resources more effectively and bet on players who can make a difference from the first minute. The Cule supporters have shown throughout history to be intelligent, critical, and passionate, and they will surely understand that in this phase of reconstruction, not all players can have their place. Some simply have not found their place, and it is time to let them go with respect and gratitude. Ferran, with all he has given, deserves these dignified farewells, but he also deserves to be told clearly that the club needs other things. At this stage, it is valid to open the debate. What do the Cules think of Ferran Torres' departure? Do they think he could still offer something different if given more time, or do they consider his time is over and it is better to look to the future? These types of discussions are healthy and part of the DNA of Barcelona supporters, who have always been actively involved in the club's destiny. At the end of the day, the goal is common: to see Barcelona competing for all titles, respected in Europe, playing attractive and effective football, and surrounded by players who proudly wear the shirt. To achieve this, the decisions made today are fundamental, and if one of these decisions is to say goodbye to Ferran Torres, so be it, with maturity, with gratitude, and, above all, with the certainty that it is what is best for the club's future, because no name, no matter how likable, can be above the sporting project that is in gestation. The reconstruction continues, the news cycle advances, and Barcelona, with its eyes fixed on tomorrow, begins to make the decisions that will mark its destiny in the years to come. The third piece of news concerns a major masterstroke for Barcelona. Barcelona has made a significant move in the transfer market, demonstrating once again that it is ready to make big bets to strengthen its squad with young, competitive, and glory-hungry talent. According to prestigious English media outlets like The Guardian, Sky Sports, Daily Mail, and The Times, Chelsea has accepted the offer from the Blaugrana club to secure the services of the 23-year-old Ecuadorian midfielder Moises Caicedo. This is a strategic move meticulously designed by the sports management and fully supported by Hansi Flick, the current coach of Barcelona, who has been a key player in advancing the negotiations. Caicedo, who arrived at Chelsea as one of the most expensive transfers in the history of the London club, has not managed to fully establish himself at Stamford Bridge, despite showing flashes of his great quality. However, it is believed that he has the ideal context to exploit all his abilities at Barcelona and become one of the great figures of European midfield. The agreement includes a 6-season contract, demonstrating the full confidence placed in the player and the forward-looking vision that prevails in the new sports project led by Flick. The German coach, who since his arrival has insisted on the need to strengthen the midfield with intense, dynamic players capable of keeping up with the pace of big matches, has placed Moises Caicedo's name at the top of his priority list. For Flick, the Ecuadorian embodies the profile that blends physical strength with tactical intelligence, aggression with order, and deployment with linking ability. In short, a player who not only fits into the coach's football idea but can also immediately raise the level of the team. The imminent departure of Frenkie de Jong, whose contractual and sporting situation has been a subject of reflection within the club, has forced the sports management to act with agility. The Dutchman has not reached the expected consistency, and everything indicates that his time as a Blaugrana will come to an end at the end of the season. In this scenario, Caicedo's transfer appears not just as an alternative, but as a natural evolution of the position, bringing different characteristics that could completely revitalize the team's structure. Barcelona's interest in Caicedo is not new. Since his breakthrough at Brighton, the young Ecuadorian has drawn attention for his tactical maturity, positional sense, recovery ability, and inexhaustible physical deployment. At just 20 years old, he was already dominating matches in the Premier League with an authority uncommon for his age. In England, he was quickly compared to some of the best midfielders in the world, and his transfer to Chelsea seemed to confirm that he was destined for great things. However, Caicedo's entourage and the player himself have always looked with admiration at Barcelona's project. On several occasions, it has been mentioned that the Ecuadorian dreams of playing in Spain, and doing so in a club with as much history, mystique, and international projection as Barcelona represents a definitive leap in his career. His entourage has expressed enthusiasm about this possibility, is closely following the decisions made from Barcelona, and is ready to take on the challenge with professionalism and ambition. One of the keys to the operation has been the possibility of including Alejandro Balde as partial exchange currency. The young full-back, who broke through strongly into the elite a few seasons ago, has not managed to establish himself as expected due to physical problems and lack of continuity. His departure would free up salary space and help balance the operation financially. Chelsea positively evaluates his incorporation, as they consider he has room for improvement and could become an important piece in their defensive renovation. This type of operation, which combines player exchanges and economic payment, represents an intelligent formula in a context where financial control is increasingly strict. Barcelona, which has learned from past mistakes, is betting on sustainable transfers that can generate both sporting and economic returns. Moises Caicedo meets all the conditions. He is young, already has experience in the elite, has a competitive mentality, and can play several years at the highest level. From a tactical point of view, Caicedo's arrival would allow Hansi Flick to work with a solid midfield base. His ability to play as a defensive midfielder gives the coach the freedom to use more ambitious systems without losing balance. In high-level matches where spaces are reduced and the margin for error is minimal, having a player like Caicedo is a luxury. His game reading, ability to anticipate, strength in individual duels, and physical resistance are key tools for controlling the pace of the match. Added to this is an increasing ability to distribute the ball with criteria, without overcomplicating things, but also without giving up the vertical pass that breaks lines. The Cule supporters, who have always known how to appreciate talented and hard-working midfielders, can find in Caicedo a new hero. He is not a player who seeks unnecessary protagonism or disregards the unseen work. On the contrary, he is a humble and dedicated footballer who places the team above personal recognition. This profile has historically been highly appreciated by the Blaugrana supporters, who recognize and applaud commitment and effort. We cannot forget that modern football demands midfielders with total preparation. It is no longer enough to have a good foot. Strength, resistance, tactical reading, aggression, and a winning mentality are required. Caicedo represents this new generation of complete midfielders who can dominate all phases of the game, and doing so with the Blaugrana shirt can be the definitive boost to make him a worldwide reference in his position. The arrival of Moises Caicedo can mark a before and after in the construction of the new Barcelona. And now, let's open the debate. What do the Barcelona supporters think of the transfer of Moises Caicedo? Do they think he is the ideal player to lead the midfield in this new phase? Do they see his arrival positively, even if it implies the departure of a young player from the academy like Balde? Do they trust that the Ecuadorian can be that dominant midfielder the club has been searching for so long? Opinions may vary, but what cannot be denied is that this move has all the ingredients to be one of the great successes of the summer. Moises Caicedo is ready to make the leap, and Barcelona, with Flick at the helm, is ready to open the door to a new era. Let the excitement begin. Leave us your opinion in the comments.